When it comes to relationships, I'm not an expert, but I have lived enough of my life to have seen a lot. And I know that relationships are give and take. And it's never always equal, but it should always be building each other up. And if you're not building each other up, you're tearing each other down. If you're ignoring each other, that's not good either. And if you're in this relationship only for the sex, you're going to be very disappointed because sex only lasts so long. And if you treat the person that you're with like a sexual object, they'll feel like a hooker and they won't stay with you. And if you treat the person you're with like a financier, then they're going to feel like that's all you're wanting is their money, and they're not going to stay with you. And I've seen that happen in many relationships. When you get into a relationship, you should be able to hold your own. You should be able to support yourself. You should be able to support your own lifestyle. So that when you get into a relationship, that you are adding to each other and not subtracting from each other. And communication is important. And so many times I've watched in many, many relationships, including my own, where competition. Oh, I did this and this and this, and what did you do? Or you didn't do as much as I did. I worked harder than you do. I work harder than you do every day. Or, everybody thinks they work harder than the other, And it's, you're not supposed to be in a relationship for competition. You're supposed to be in a relationship to help each other, to care about each other, to build each other up, to grow together, to be a team. And so many relationships don't work out because they're not a team, because they want to be, somebody always wants to be in control. Somebody always wants to be in control. And yes, in the Bible it says that women should submit, but that doesn't mean she needs to be controlled. You got that mistaken. Have you ever really read the Bible to know that? Because submitting doesn't mean that she's going to be controlled by you. What it means is if you can't come into an agreement together, you have the last say as a man. That's what that means. It doesn't mean you have the right to control her. It also says that you're supposed to submit to God. But see, most men forget that part. They only want to hear about the women submitting to the men. Men should be bringing out the best in the woman, and women should be bringing out the best in the man. It should not be competitive. You should not feel like that you have to compete with other women if you're a woman for your man's attention. Your man should not feel like he should have to compete with another man for your attention. Trust needs to be established, and sometimes trust gets broken a little bit along the way. Doesn't mean it can't be reestablished, but it has to be an effort on both parts. You have to let people's past go, because people aren't who they were yesterday. Unless you just started out and you're 18 years old, you got a past. And everybody's got a past. And if you throw that past up at somebody when they're trying to do their best to change their life, all you're doing is destroying them. All you're doing is tearing them down. There are things that you need to agree on before you come into a relationship. There are always things that you need to agree on. Morals is one of them. Belief systems is another one. And a lot of times we get involved with other people who don't have the same belief system as us. That doesn't mean that it won't work, but it's going to be harder to work. If they're not a believer, and I'm a believer, so I'm going to tell you this in a believer's mind and how it works. If you get involved with a person who is not a believer, you can, and the Bible says that it is possible for you to show them the way that they eventually come to be a believer through you. But they have to be okay with the fact that you believe the way that you believe. They have to be okay that you go worship when you worship, and they cannot get in the way of that. And if they do, that is not the person for you. The Bible talks about being equally yoked, yes, but it also talks about Esther and the king. And the Esther was a Jewish person and the king was not. They did not have the same beliefs, but yet their marriage was ordained and it worked. That is rare. That is very, very rare. And it's not being equally yoked just adds a harder layer to the relationship. And it's hard to find people who are equally yoked because not everyone believes. And there are more people out there who don't believe than there are people who do believe. So that makes it very hard. And people need to learn to communicate when they're in a relationship. You can't just avoid situations, and you can't be in an avoidance. You cannot be a person that doesn't speak your mind about how you feel, but you got to speak your mind about how you feel without hurting the other person's feelings. You got to kind of know what kind of person they are and how easily they get hurt. You got to learn each other's communication abilities. You really do. You have to learn. It's like learning people's love language. You not only have to learn each other's love language, you have to learn each other's communication language. And that is also a hard thing. Then you have to also learn where your finances are. You need to discuss finances before you get into a relationship, because some people have a mindset of spending money more than what they have. Some people have a mindset of taking care of the finances first, which we should be doing, taking care of the bills first, then have the spending money. Some people have this mindset that money is the only thing that counts, and other people have this mindset is I should be the one that counts. And if somebody has a mindset of their money meaning more than anything else, that relationship ain't gonna work. Greed has a way of drowning out love. So, because it's a sin, first of all. And there are a lot of people caught up in greed. You have to know how each other take care of their children. Is that person good with children? Is that person patient? Is that person, especially if there's children involved already, and if you're going to have children with that person, you need to know how they are with children. You need to know how they are with animals. If they are good with animals, chances are they're good with children, but not always. And there are so many things to consider when getting into a relationship, yet people will jump into a relationship after knowing someone for 2 days, 1 day. They sleep with each other. And then when they sleep with each other, they obtain that person's demons and whoever else they slept with's demons. And now there's more problems. You cannot start a relationship with sex and expect it to work out. There is a probably 96% chance it won't. You cannot start a relationship without a friendship and expect it to work out. There is probably a 98% chance it won't work out. There are things that you got to consider when you get involved with somebody. There's things that you got to consider. How do they deal with your family? How does their family deal with you? What is the things that they find the most important in life? What is the things that you find most important in life? Are they compatible? Do they like to have conversations? Do they like to be quiet? Are they morning people? Are they not morning people? How do they deal with stressful situations? Do they get out of control and start yelling and screaming and hitting the wall? Or are they just patient and like, okay, we got this? These are all things you got to deal with in a relationship. And it's a lot. It's complicated. And that's why so many relationships don't work. It's because people jump without checking it all out. I hope this helps you. God bless you.